How's everyone doing this evening? So we're getting things set up. Yeah? Good? It's a pretty day. It's windy. It's windy.
The wind is very agitating.
Is it? Yeah. Yeah.
It's almost like, when does it ever stop? It's this constant presence.
Yeah,
And I was sitting at home
totally.
with the trees sort of bashing against the window, and I'm like, it looks nice out there.
Yeah.
It's freezing cold.
Yeah, it's
I
true.
have a barbecue.
Yeah.
I watched him putting up all those little banners for the parade.
Yeah.
Now they're getting all
Those
Yeah.
are pretty cool. That's a cool thing.
Yeah.
the shape.
Yeah. It's so funny how we orient to things that happen in nature. Is there anybody who finds wind really exciting? Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Tell me more. Why is wind exciting?
I think, but after learning about the elements,
Yeah.
I felt like I didn't really appreciate it before,
Yeah.
and it's so invisible,
True.
but
Yeah.
it adds so much.
It
It's
does. Yeah.
very essential.
Yeah. Absolutely. I think that I find wind agitating when it's blowing my hair all around and when it's messing with me. But if I watch wind moving through trees and watching how the leaves dance, it's a completely different experience, right? So I think that it's really interesting to ask this question. We're just doing a little bit of checking in. Those of you who are joining online will officially start in just a moment. I'm talking about it's windy here in San Francisco, so we're talking about the wind. Yeah, it just all really depends on our view and the context, and how can we maybe see a both and. Like the wind is agitating and exciting, right? And how is it agitating and exciting at the same time? At the same time, embracing that kind of complexity. I find it's really helpful. It has been really helpful in my life. And it's a really good segue for our topic for this evening. So, this is a three-part series, and this is part one. And when I was thinking about what I would offer here at the Dharma Collective, and I've been subbing, I've subbed a few times at this point for Eve Ekman, and I'm really thrilled to be here teaching again and teaching this series. I was thinking about what I would really benefit from and what I feel is needed right now in these times. And what I came to was, well, I just really need to kind of cultivate that deep internal wisdom that helps me to approach the both and, that helps me to lean into complexity, because the world, it feels really complex right now. Does anybody feel like the world is a little bit complex right now? Right? I think that, and yeah, like you name the kind of sphere that you're paying attention to. There's a lot of complexity to be seen right now. So cultivating wisdom and developing these kind of resilience skills and for everyday life. So how do we kind of engage in practice here in community, and then also take that out into our everyday life as a resource, as an ongoing resource. Part of my background is I have deeply studied many different types of yoga philosophy, and I teach yoga practices. I lead yoga teacher trainings, so I teach teachers. I've also studied Tibetan Buddhism. So a lot of what you're going to find here is a weaving together of some of the concepts of both. And there's a lot of similarity and overlap, and there are points at which they kind of diverge. But I have found in studying both that they're very complementary, and they both bring very unique aspects to the table. What we'll be engaging in is a little bit of practice, obviously, some light movement practice even. The movement tonight will be very, very minimal and mostly about light stretching and some breathing together. We'll do some seated meditation practice. We'll also do some reflection, because I think that we all hold wisdom within ourselves, right? and with this title is very intentional. Like, I see us all as the teachers in coming together, right? I can come and guide us in a process and guide us in some practices, but ultimately the wisdom that emerges is because we've all come here together at this time on this day to be able to share ourselves, right? So I want to tap into this full well of wisdom. Like, I don't hold all the wisdom here, right? We do together. And so we're going to be doing a little bit of sharing too. Does that all sound good? Anybody have any questions? Music? Oh yes, we're gonna dive into music. I have my harmonium here, so I play a harmonium, and I'm also a vocalist. I'm a singer, so we'll do some kind of immersive sound at the end as well. So to get us started, let's either in a seated position or a standing position. You can feel free to stand. I'm gonna just come to the edge of my chair. I invite you to stretch your arms up just as much as you would like. They don't have to stretch up all the way, but what would it would feel like to kind of stretch up? And then you can keep your hands apart or interlace your fingers, maybe pressing your palms up, or even just interlacing and stretching index fingers up, but just feeling the length through the sides of your body. And then start to move your head and neck from side to side, looking from side to side. And then up and down for a few rounds. Just lightly stretching the neck. And then lastly, you might do a little side bending from side to side. In doing this, we're kind of stretching. This is very intentional. Stretching a lot of the muscles that tend to grip when we're trying to take deep breathing, right? And then you might release your arms and shake them out a little bit. Okay. Now, lastly, and this is called in yoga, this is called cat and cow. If you've ever taken a yoga class, you've probably done this. But with your hands on your thighs, inhale, come into a little back bend shape, stretching the front side of your body. And then exhale, round your spine a little bit. And inhaling to come into a little back bend shape. And exhale to round your spine. And at your own pace with your breath, do a few more like that. Just moving through. Especially focusing on stretching through the abdominal muscles, stretching through the back muscles, and there are also muscles in between each one of your ribs. So how can you stretch and open up? The intercostal muscles is what they're called. All of the breathing muscles opening, stretching, getting prepared. And one more moment for any last little thing that needs to be stretched. You can just kind of be spontaneous about it. Maybe you feel like out through the armpit and down one side feels a little bit tighter. Maybe you're gonna check out the other side or just move more dynamically. You could even roll your neck a little bit. Like, what else needs a little bit of attention? What needs to open? Yeah, twisting is good too. And now finding a position, comfortable position, where it feels like your shoulder blades are sliding down your back and your shoulders are kind of heavy but relaxed. So not like a heavy pulling you down, but just like a, whew, I don't need to hold my arms up at all. They can just rest. And rest your hands either face down or face up on your thighs, your choice. And then I either invite you to lower your gaze and look a few inches in front of you, or you can close your eyes completely. And I'll guide you through a kind of playful exercise, which will end in some more kind of deep, calming, regulating breathing. But first, we'll do some kind of spontaneous, unpredictable breathing. Like, we'll come into the agitation and then we'll come into the calm, embracing uncertainty. Right. So I will say inhale and exhale at some different paces. And your invitation is to follow along playfully with maybe some curiosity. What is this going to be? Okay. To begin, inhale deeply. Open up your mouth, exhale completely. Then inhale quickly. Exhale as long as possible. And inhale about medium pace. Exhale quickly. Inhale for a really long time. Exhale quickly. Inhale quickly. Exhale quickly. Inhale quickly. Exhale for a long time. Now about a medium pace inhale and exhale, whatever that means to you. Check in with the spontaneous rhythm of your breath. So just taking a breath and observing it. What is it doing now? Does it feel agitated by that uncertainty, moving in different paces? And then inhale quickly. Exhale for a long time. Inhale about medium. Exhale quickly. Inhale quickly. Exhale quickly. Inhale for a long time. Open up your mouth, exhale audibly. Now we'll begin count of 4 for your inhale. Inhale for 1, 2, 3, 4. Pause. Exhale, 4, 3, 2, 1. Pause. Inhale, 1, 2, 3, 4. Pause. Exhale, 4, 3, 2, 1. Pause. Inhale, 1, 2, 3, 4. Pause. Exhale, 4, 3, 2, 1. Pause. Same pace. 1, 2, 3, 4. Pause. Exhale, 4, 3, 2, 1. Pause. One more like that. Inhale. Pause. And exhale. Okay, now that we've gotten used to it, extending a little bit for 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. All the way to the top. Pause. Exhale. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Pause. Inhale. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Pause. Exhale. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Pause. Inhale. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Pause. Exhale. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Pause. Couple more. Inhale. Count of 6 in your head. And pause. And exhale for 6. And pause. Last one. Inhale. Pause. Exhale. Release the structure of the breath. Come back to your spontaneous, natural rhythm of breathing. Just noticing the residual impact of putting that structure on the breath, actively and intentionally lengthening both the inhale and exhale. just breathing in this way has a direct impact on the nervous system. So allowing yourself to feel the sensations inside, your inner state. And if your eyes have been closed for this opening, grounding practice, I invite you to gently open them, coming back into the space. If you feel like you want to shift your position or stretch a little bit after that, it's fine. Also look around a little bit. Sometimes when you're going inside, it's nice to reorient back to the external environment. So I am so curious how that felt. This is something that I've been playing around with. Like, okay, well, I know that the breath is one of the fastest ways to calm yourself down, right? When you feel stress or anxiety, when you feel overwhelmed, one of the best tools that you can go to on a daily basis, and one of the like practice hacks, is just take a few deep breaths, and you can kind of count the amount for the inhale and the amount for the exhale. But oftentimes what we find before we get into that, okay, I am aware that my breathing is doing some things and I'm feeling some stress. Usually it is kind of chaotic, like we're intentionally going into. So holding that, and you can also speak to this, I have some questions for you as we begin. So my questions for you are, what are you bringing in with you today? What feels light? What feels heavy? What feels maybe constricted? What feels tense? What feels agitating? What feels exciting? And can you link it a little bit to sensations that you feel inside the body? Maybe it feels a little bit anxious. Maybe it's a particular part of your body. Is it connected to any particular emotions or feelings inside? So what are you coming in with? Like, what are you holding? What is present for you? And also, if you feel excited about sharing about the breathing practice, I'd love to hear about that too. And those of you online, you can please share as well. Anybody? Yeah, Jason. I think, yeah.
I really enjoyed that because it helped me not drift, which I usually, even if I'm focusing on the breath, I drift. My mind just, I'm sure it takes me a while to settle in. So it was really helpful to really land here and do the breathing.
Good.
It really worked.
Good. I'm so glad. Yay. Anyone else? Anybody want to share about what they're holding, what they're coming in with? It doesn't have to be anything specific. It might be, I kind of feel a little heavy today, or I feel pulled in a lot of different directions right now. We'll give it some time, and if nobody is, also permission not to share anything too. Did anybody like the kind of unpredictable breath better than the regulated breath? Like, what did you, how was that experience? Giggling a little bit, right? It was meant to be playful, just kind of, yeah.
Yeah, I guess I'm just so accustomed to the regulated
Uh-huh,
kind of breathing patterns.
Right.
I kind of incorporate it into my life. Like I find myself counting, and even when I'm showering or shaving or brushing my teeth, or kind of trying to get into like that sort of meditative state
right, yeah,
when I'm doing everyday things.
exactly, Yeah. It's a really good practice to be in. Yeah. Yeah. Um, and in other parts of your life, would you say that you feel more connected to the chaotic breathing? Like what does life feel right now? Or does it feel more like that grounded, steady pacing of breath? So I find myself going between the two. So like how can I kind of use the metaphor of what is going out there and put it into breathing exercises? Sometimes it feels like, okay, inhale and exhale really long. And exhale quickly. And sometimes it feels like I can find my grounding and find that internal pace and rhythm. Sometimes lately it feels like the chaotic breath all over the place. Yeah.
I can say that I've used breath to pause
Breath to pause.
I've just been able to, I'm getting agitated. I mean, I trigger really easily, very
Yeah.
defensive.
Yeah.
And if I feel the feeling of, it's like clenching,
Uh-huh.
then I like breathe. I just pause and breathe, and it works. It's almost like I never knew. Eve calls it what? It's the schmeck. It's a word that's like the very beginning of anger, and it's really
Oh.
intense, and it comes on
Yep.
before anger.
Mm-hmm.
And you can actually notice it, and then you go like, okay, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to go there. And so breathing, like for me, has just been a quick intake, a quick, like it's almost like I have to catch it before it gets. And that's
Absolutely.
been super helpful. I think ever since the thing that happened in Washington, I've been more triggerable
Sure.
and noticing like I don't want to go there, and I can control that a little more with
Yeah.
breath.
Yeah. Yeah. And oftentimes one of the first indicators is what's happening with the breath. Like, oh, am I agitated? What's happening with my breath? Yeah. Oh, actually, like I feel tightness in my chest. My breathing is shallow. It's short. It's a good indicator. Yeah. Thanks for sharing. Yeah. Someone online? Hello?
Yeah,
Yes, please share.
I,
Yeah.
I
Hi.
found that the chaotic breathing sort of helped me kind of settle into the regulated breathing a little easier.
Awesome.
Yeah, I don't know
Awesome.
why, but it
Yeah.
felt like when we went into the regulated breath, it was it seemed to settle in really easily and quickly. It's almost like it got rid of some kind of agitation through doing that somehow. So,
Yeah. Wonderful. Thank you so much for sharing. That's kind of that was one of my aims, and I was hoping that that would be what someone with at least one of you felt, because I think that feeling the stark difference between the two really helps it to be clear like how calming it is to regulate the breath and what automatically happens even if it's not something that's happening because of an outside stressor. If we create that inside, we can actually create this little bit of like you know chaotic energy inside of us, right? And we have the ability through intention to calm ourselves back down. Like, and that to me, once I learned that and started playing around with it, it was revelatory. Like, oh, we can just do a practice and I can get myself back into that calm, grounded state. Right? Thanks so much for sharing. Anyone else? I do want to leave space if anybody else wants to share anything. Yeah, please.
I think when the breath was like unpredictable, I think it detached from like the thinking mind, because I had this like a thoughts like kind of running in my head.
Uh-huh.
And yeah, I think I can still be thinking while I'm having deep breaths.
Yeah.
So, because I'm like paying attention, is it gonna be short one? Like, what's the next one? So, so it kind of detached from that, like the
Yeah.
thoughts.
Yeah. Awesome. Awesome. Yeah. That's it's such a beautiful reflection. And yeah, I find that too. Um when you have to really focus on something and you're wondering what's coming next, that can help you to be really present, right? And then can help you to drop into the more kind of regulated, kind of automatic sort of pacing. Yeah. Yeah. Thanks so much for sharing. All right. Well, let us move on to the rest of our kind of scheduled programming. I have been going down this rabbit hole of reading and rereading Pema Chodron books, and the last series that I taught here when I was subbing for Eve, I had inspirations from Pema Chodron, and we're not going to stop now because it feels like it's really, her words are very alive for me in this time. And I felt really drawn for this series in diving into living beautifully with, times of uncertainty and change. And it feels like every single sentence that I read in that book is speaking directly to my heart and speaking directly to these times, almost like it was written today. So one of the things that really kind of came forward in reading this time was this idea of the uncertainty, embracing uncertainty in all of its different forms. One of the quotes at the beginning of this book is by Shunryu Suzuki Roshi, and the quote is, "Life is like stepping into a boat that is about to sail out to sea and sink," which sounds pretty dire, right? And I think that you can reframe it in a way that's kind of playful and hopeful, almost like the breathing exercise that we did at the beginning. It's okay, well, sometimes it's like this, sometimes it's like that. We don't know how long we have. We don't know if the sea is going to be turbulent. We don't know if it's going to be clear, right? We do know that it's likely to be varied, right? Every day we step out into this kind of beautiful and varied experience. We can choose to be annoyed or agitated when things change and aren't predictable, or we can choose to get curious, right? Doesn't mean that we are always successful in choosing curiosity, but it does mean that we can intentionally turn our attention toward, well, isn't that interesting? Where's the opportunity to learn from this? Things that are certain in this life are change. We will, at some point, we will transition out of this realm. But what isn't quite as certain is whether or not we'll actually live, right? I would say that all of us gathering here in community, this is a vote for actually living this life, right? We are doing practices and coming together to learn how to be more present for this beautiful life, whatever it holds, right? Anybody here say that they have benefited from doing contemplative practices? Right? Right? Does it help you to be more present for your life? Right? Does it make your life any more predictable? Yeah, yes, I love it. So yes, I see the kind of like, no, and then I say like, kind of.
My reactions to it are a little more predictable.
The reactions are more predictable. Yeah, a little more predictable, right? Because we expect, as contemplative wisdom practitioners of various different forms, we learn how to expect the unexpected and to be okay with that, right? We become sailors. We don't go out in without, it doesn't mean that we don't learn how to sail the boat. We're just like, all right, I'm gonna go on this sailboat and we're just gonna see what happens. Like, we're intentionally coming and doing practice that, oh, I know that when it's turbulent, I can do this breathing, right? And that's gonna help me to enjoy this and move through it, and it's gonna be a little bit less painful. Right? It's going to be a little bit more manageable, a little bit less painful. So the real kind of aim is how we can make friends with unpredictability and uncertainty and embrace them as vehicles to transform our lives. And this is what Pema Chodron says in Living Beautifully. She also poses the question, how can we relax and have a genuine, passionate relationship with the fundamental uncertainty and groundlessness of being human, right? Of being human. And she also kind of brings in the words of Shantideva, the 8th century Buddhist master. This is directly from the Way of the Bodhisattva. All that I possess and use is like the fleeting vision of a dream. It fades into the realms of memory, and fading will be seen no more, right? Everything is change, everything is transient. Yet also what we discover is it's also a both and, right? There's agitation, there's excitement. There's also this uncertainty and impermanence, but yet the more that we practice, we realize that there is this kind of deep, abiding, permanent thing that we get to tap into when we practice. Has anybody felt that kind of like deep well of wisdom that you can tap into? Maybe even just like fleeting moments of like, oh yeah, right? I feel awe. I feel connected with everything. I feel peace. I feel like I am one with love, right? So it is this kind of weaving of these aspects of ourself together and realizing that we are all of that. And that is really beautiful. Now, there's also some kind of talk about what causes suffering, which we've been studying these things. We've been practicing these things. We know this, but it's helpful to remember that when we resist change, it's called suffering. It's called suffering. But when we can completely let go and not struggle against it, when we can embrace the groundlessness of our situation and relax into its dynamic quality, it's called enlightenment. Right? So moving from struggle to enlightenment, or awakening to our true nature, to our fundamental goodness. Another word for this is freedom. Freedom from struggling against the fundamental ambiguity of being human. And that's the name of the chapter. The ambiguity of being human. All right? It's endlessly frustrating, yeah? I think it's endlessly frustrating, and it's really deeply beautiful, right? Has anybody here experienced serendipity? Right? So part of like we can't have serendipity without things also that are kind of more painful, right? Having anything being possible allows for things arising that feel like, oh my gosh, what a blessing. I had never in a million years thought that something like that would happen. And that's amazing. And also like, wow, that's really deeply painful, right? And we can learn from the full range of that experience, right? And where's the opportunity in everything that comes our way? And one of the most helpful practices that I have engaged in with over the years that helps me to really live that way, because, this is why we do practice, because we forget, right? We get into a situation where we are just a little bit more overwhelmed, or we just kind of got blindsided, or it just feels like things are piling on and we don't have as much space or resilience, serenity. And we go back to those places that we don't necessarily, it doesn't feel great to go back to, like, I am so stressed right now. I'm holding so much tension in my body. It is part of being human. So one of those practices, especially when I find myself in moments like those, was inspired by Kristen Neff, who's developed practices on mindful self-compassion. And this practice is called soften, soothe, and allow. I can't tell you how many times when I've been struggling, I've gone back to that one. as a really helpful friend, as a touchstone. If I can remember to breathe deeply, more deeply, and to kind of lean into, befriend what is happening, to soften around it, to create more of kind of this porous openness. Also, you know, saying like, hey, sweetheart, like, this is really hard. Like, I feel you. This is hard right now. And then those two, the combination of those two just allows space for it to be there quite reliably for me. So I'd love for us to try that together now. So come into a comfortable position for some meditation, a guided meditation. This will be a little bit of a longer practice, so do know that if you need to move at any point in time, you can shift positions, right? Also, if you start to feel really stiff or you feel anxious inside, sometimes it's nice to sway from side to side. You don't have to be completely still, right? You can sit or lie down or stand for this. So just taking a few moments to get yourself into the position that would feel best. And then your choice as to whether you want to soften your gaze and draw your gaze down a little bit, or if you want to close your eyes completely. Just lightly closing the eyelids if you're closing your eyes. Especially because we've been talking about the breath and we've been doing breathing exercise, we're going to come back to awareness of the breath. This time, simply witnessing what the breath is doing. Witnessing how the breath is breathing you. Gentle inhale and exhale. Maybe you notice the breath mostly at the tip of your nose. It's like cooling and heat as it moves in and out of your nostrils. You might notice the breath more around the circumference of your rib cage, expanding out and hugging back in. You might feel the breath most strongly in your low belly. Kind of the space around your belly button, if your abdominal muscles are relaxed, it kind of moves out and in. So feeling the space around the belly button, just moving out and in gently. Allowing yourself to be here with the breath in this gentle way for a few more rounds, simply observing. And the breath throughout this meditation can serve as a kind of safe zone or an anchor. Anytime you just want to come back and focus on the breath, if that would feel calming, you can do that. We'll set up one more kind of anchor or resource that you can come back to, and we'll also use this later. I invite you to think of one area of your body that could use a little bit of love, a little bit of soothing. Maybe it's placing one or both hands over your heart. Maybe it's your belly. Sometimes it's nice to place a hand at the back of your neck or a hand on your forehead. what part of you would really appreciate some touch, either with the attention of your mind on that place in your body, or by literally placing a hand there? Perhaps coming up with a phrase like, I care about you. Hey, I'm here for you. I love you. Whatever feels right. And feeling that attention or even that physical touch, maybe accompanied with a loving phrase. Knowing that at any point in time, if it becomes too overwhelming or if you just want a break, you can always come back here to the breath, to this kind attention, this kind touch. You can keep your hands where they are if it feels good there. But we'll move into another exploration of just thinking, maybe generally or maybe a specific situation where you've maybe felt a particular type of emotion. Try not to choose something that feels really strong. As an example earlier, maybe you just feel the agitation as it comes up because of the wind. Maybe you're stuck in traffic. Maybe you have a little argument with a loved one. Maybe you're experiencing some kind of loss. Even be disappointment. Maybe they ran out of your favorite pastry at the bakery. Just find one small thing that you can kind of use to bring up the content of a particular type of emotion. Once that comes into focus in your awareness, we begin by noticing what type of emotion it is. Can you label it as something? Is it anger, sadness, fear? Is it shame? Also acknowledging that there can be more than one emotion that shows up at once. It might even be a little bit harder to identify clearly. It could show up as something like disgust or sadness and anger. And especially with the challenging emotions. Simply turning our attention toward them and labeling them can give us a little bit of distance. We approach them more as the witness. And in so doing, we become less identified with them. Oh, this is anger. That's fear. And if it feels okay to stay with this for a little bit longer, see if you can notice if it shows up in a particular part of your body or parts of your body. Are there sensations that are associated with this? Maybe heat or coolness. Might feel constricted or tense. Or it might feel really active, like buzzing. Does it show up in your jaw, in your neck, your shoulders? Does it show up in your belly? Just taking a few more moments to notice where it lives, if there are sensations you can become aware of. And then as you notice emotions, feelings, sensations, I invite you to imagine that you create a soft space around where it lives in your body. Can you relax into and around the space where you're feeling it? Almost like it's surrounded by warmth, feeling of care and love. Softening into that area. So often our impulse is to tighten or to push away. How do we create space for it to be there and soften around it? Allowing the softening to continue, think of how you might soothe this particular emotion or sensation or combination of the two. Maybe it's placing a hand on that area. It could also be supporting that area with some deeper breathing. What would be soothing? How do you actively soothe what you're in contact with, what you're noticing? Softening and soothing. Noticing what changes. What is shifting? And as you continue to soften and soothe, know that what you're doing is allowing it to be there, befriending all of human experience, including this, yes, this too. Softening, soothing, and allowing. Simply breathing, being with noticing perhaps the impermanence of even emotion, sensation, changing of states, internal states. Now, move into a little bit of pairing. First, we want to kind of get a picture of what might be the opposite. So, like you're clearing the deck, let's come back to noticing breathing, just noticing breathing. And we'll come back to that even length inhale and exhale for a few rounds. Exhale, empty out completely. And through your nose for a count of 4. Inhale 1, 2, 3, 4. Pause. Exhale 4, 3, 2, 1. Pause. Inhale 1, 2, 3, 4. Pause. Exhale 4, 3, 2, 1. Pause. Inhale for 4. And pause. Exhale for 4. And pause. Do 2 more on your own, just like that. And exhale. And at the end of your next exhale, you can release the structured breath, maybe keeping your breath a bit more spacious if possible, and just noticing what a few deep regulated breaths did. Now, I invite you to bring into your mind now also an emotion, but we're going to move to ones that are really pleasant. Like what brought about a sense of joy or playfulness? Maybe it's a pet or a child. Connecting with something playful in nature. Maybe it's a beautiful nature scene that brought about awe. So thinking of one thing that brought about sense of joy or awe or happiness. Maybe it brought up some laughter, sense of playfulness. Noticing the shifts inside of you as you make contact with this thing or event. Maybe it's an object that you really love. And labeling this emotion. Is it joy? Is it curiosity? Playfulness? Excitement? Maybe it feels a little bit anxious, but kind of like an anticipation of something. Maybe it's happiness. Do you notice any sensations inside your body that are associated with this emotion or feeling? Where does it live in your body? So softening around this emotion, this feeling, to create more space for it to expand. Also allowing space for this to be here. And the soothing part of this is maybe use some touch or some focused attention to allow this feeling, this sensation to grow. Saying, yes, I deserve to feel happiness. I also deserve to feel joy. This is here now. Let it be. Softening and maybe more accurately, encouraging to be present. Softening, encouraging. So softening, encouraging, and allowing space for this to also be here. Joy, happiness, jubilance, awe. Now allowing this to fade into the background. Do a little experiment with something called pendulation for the last phase of our practice, where it's a practice of remembering the emotion that is challenging, sensations that accompany it. And taking a few moments to get in touch with that again. Where was it? Where did it live? What did it feel like? What emotion or emotions were present? Fear, anger. And then I invite you to move to the second emotion, the one that's very pleasant. Where did that live in your body? Can you soften and open to that? Allow joy, playfulness to be there. What are the sensations? Is there warmth? Is there a feeling of radiation? Expansion? Just a few more times at your own pace, going back and forth, back to locating the challenging emotion, feeling, sensations. Getting in touch with that, allowing, softening, soothing, allowing. And then moving to the pleasant emotion and sensation, softening, encouraging, and allowing. Back and forth. And just pausing long enough to tap into feeling and allowing, and then moving to the other one. Not spending too much time dwelling. Back and forth. The spirit of allowing. See if for a few moments you can hold both equally at the same time. The challenge, along with the pleasant, the expansive. Yes, and both and. What does it feel like to hold both? Allowing space for both. Again, softening, soothing, and allowing. We'll end with a minute or so of continuing to practice in silence. If it feels most helpful to come back to just noticing your breath, coming back to the simple, be noticing your feet or a part of your body as they're touching the floor. You can come back to that, or you can continue to hold in this space of yes, sadness, and joy, tension, and spaciousness. Just playing with what feels helpful, what helps you to be present with what is. Just a little longer in silence. Taking a couple more breaths here as we transition. Thinking of moving really slowly out of this. If your eyes have been closed, I invite you to very gradually, slowly open them again, allowing the light to filter back in. Shifting your position of your body as desired, as needed, stretching as desired. And just gently coming back. Thank you for practicing. And so, kind of like this process with a lot of teaching in this context of kind of the kind of rinse and repeat kind of strategy. So we do some practice and then we repeat the sharing, and so this is the opportunity to ask the question again, what are you holding now? What are you aware of now? And then reflecting particularly on the practice, like what did it make you aware of? Do you notice that you kind of gravitate toward, have a certain tendency? Like, is it easier to kind of gravitate toward the challenging emotion or experiencing the kind of more expansive emotion? Which one is more sticky? What did you find challenging? What surprised you? What did you become curious about in this process? What did it teach you about yourself? So if anybody would like to share anything, also kind of offer the opportunity to share here. Yeah, Jason, do you want to?
I was overwhelmed with an emotion that I don't even know if it's an emotion, but it's longing.
Yeah, yeah,
And then I realized it's actually it's how I think of like want but can't have.
sure.
And it's just like, it's for many things. But the resolution to that is like either I have it, and then it's like this fulfilling of that craving.
Mm-hmm.
But the actual other side of it is like being okay with not getting what I want.
Yeah,
So I was kind of working with that. I was kind of riding a roller coaster
yeah,
because
yeah,
the feeling of longing is like, is that an emotion? You know, it's like, because it's like, that doesn't feel like anger. I'd like to just hear what you have to say about that feeling, because it's like there's, I could say that it feels like something's missing and I
sure.
want to have it. And I feel like that's a very powerful, it causes agitation, it causes
Sure.
sadness, it brings up loss,
Yeah.
brings up all these and then there's this sort of like, also suffering, because it's like wanting and not being able to have something is like the definition of suffering, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, that kind of separation, that feeling of the kind of severing and the separation, yeah, thank you so much for sharing. That is really challenging. And I think that you answered part of your own question of what kind of emotion is that? It's kind of a composite, right? There are a lot of emotions, and it is kind of a roller coaster because oftentimes when there's that kind of deep longing and feeling like we can't kind of get that need met, it takes us on this ride of, wow, I feel rage now. Like I feel very angry that I can't have this thing and I long so deeply for it. And then I feel like I need to grieve. I feel like I need to collapse, and I feel despondent. I feel helpless. So thank you for your courage and being willing to share that, and share that with all of us. And you know, it's really great that you can work with it, right? That you can go there, because it is an intense experience. The fact that you can be in practice with that means that you can be with all of the kind of complexity of that deep longing, right? Is this something that you have noticed before show up? Is this something that kind of comes back? Yeah, yeah, yeah,
I will say that it's existential. It's like
yeah,
longing for, I don't know, I think what I'm aware of when I'm practicing in that space of, like, I know that it's craving, it's wanting to fill the hole, it's
yeah,
wanting all these things. And then I realized, like, what I've been able to do, and I did this in the meditation too, is like, there's one thing about craving and then getting what you want, which is like, great, right? You want the
Yeah.
ice cream, go to the ice cream store.
yeah,
And, but for a lot of things, it's not that easy, or you can't have what you need. And so being okay with that. And so what I've been saying lately is like, I'm okay with the way things are right now. If I feel longing and like I can't have what I want, I just say that over and over. I chant it, like, I'm okay with the way things are right now. Kind of fake it till you make it.
yeah,
But
sure.
it does help to just kind of like, I'm not going to get what I want.
Yeah,
There's a song written about that. Right?
yeah,
Can't
yeah,
get no satisfaction.
yeah,
But yeah, it's just, I feel like that's been the most existential place that I feel
sure,
a lot of the time.
sure.
And then
Yeah,
it kind of goes away. It's not like I'm always feeling that way, but when I do, it's really powerful.
right, yeah, yeah. Were you, may I ask one more question if you don't mind? Were you able to connect with the kind of opposite of that? What, something that brought joy or happiness or playfulness, and how did it feel once you connected with that, and especially trying to hold both?
Yeah,
Did
I
it
was
shift
thinking,
anything?
yeah, it was like getting the ice cream was the
Yeah.
joy.
Yeah,
Right? I
okay.
want the ice cream. It's like that,
Yeah.
that's joy. There's just like simple happiness in getting what you want. But at the same time, I felt a deeper joy in letting it go
Mm,
and feeling like I'm okay without it. Because I've been through
right.
a lot of craving, a
Yeah,
lot of AA and a lot of,
yeah,
whatever. It's like I want, but I can't have.
yeah,
And then I realized like it's okay to just, it's much better to not fulfill that and actually just be in a place where you're okay letting it go. And so that was the
okay.
bigger joy. It's like two
Awesome.
different kinds of joy, but one is very physical or
Yeah.
it's a sensual pleasure.
Yeah,
The other is like a spiritual pleasure.
yeah. I love how they're kind of related to one another, right? That the biggest joy is letting go of the thing that causes the greatest suffering.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That felt like actually a better, more realistic. It's like, because I'm not gonna get what I want.
Yeah.
So I have to be able to like be okay and really enjoy the fact that I'm practicing not having it. And I don't
Yeah.
know. I feel like I was dipping in and out of that throughout the whole experience. It's like,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Anybody relate to that? Like, is there anything that feels like has ever felt unfulfilled and like, oh, I just have this craving. I want it. I want it. I want it. But, yeah, it's deeply human. And thank you for sharing. Thank you for sharing that kind of, that like really wide open, vulnerable place. So good. Yeah. Thanks, Jason. Keep working with that. It's good work. Anybody else have a kind of curious thing happen? Kind of something surprising? What was harder? Yeah, Kate. Yeah.
I did have a funny experience where I was dealing with a lot of fear and it really like clamps my throat up and I can never really get it to relax, but it did relax a little bit.
Good.
And that feeling is so much more felt in the body. And what I guess was curious and surprised me was that the sort of awe and the playfulness I was working for was not as embodied. It was like somewhere in my head or like just outside of it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I was just
Yeah, I don't think that, I mean, I think that that's something that's very common for that to be experienced, because challenging emotions, they are felt deeply inside and they kind of feel like constricting and feel like they're kind of like embedded in places in your body. when you're dealing with emotions that are more expansive and connecting, sometimes it's so spacious that you feel like, well, I don't really feel like the boundaries of this body kind of contain that anymore. So that can totally be a part of the experience. Something to kind of ask yourself though is, do I find it harder is it that I don't feel it in my body because I find it harder to connect with the experience of like joy or playfulness or awe? Or is it just because like I am connecting with it, but it's not something that's just here? It's something that makes me feel like, yes, this entire group is a part of how I identify now. This is a part of who I am. I connect with all of nature, the universe, sort of a thing. So it could be both, and it could be both and.
I think it's kind of both. And.
Yeah, both and.
I think the joy and the playfulness is what I was connecting with, and that was sort of effervescent or something that was hard
Yeah,
to look
yeah.
at, where the fear was, just gripped.
Yeah.
I still feel it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, give some soothing for that too.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're so welcome. Thank you for bringing that in. Another thing to keep in mind is that a lot of the more challenging emotions that arise are kind of deeply ingrained as like a survival instinct too, which our body physiologically is getting ready to respond to the perceived threat. Right? So it's gearing up to do the thing. Yeah.
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 Yeah. I was just curious about that. And
Yeah.
thank you.
Thank you so much. Thanks for bringing that in. Anyone else? Yeah.
Yeah, I was kind of related to what Cage was saying. My difficult emotion, which was anxiety,
Yeah.
was very like up here,
Sure.
and then my lovely emotion, which was kind of love, was really in the belly.
Interesting.
And so that was kind of interesting.
That is.
Neither was very strong.
Yeah.
I was kind of evoking, well, we were evoking an emotion that we had recently.
Right.
And the anxiety was an interesting one. It came up, I think, yesterday. Where I was having anxiety over something that I knew I would have to deal with the next day, but I also recognized that I was tired and not very capacitated.
Yeah.
So I just kind of like poked holes in it. And I was just like, this, that's not you. That's just a thing you're feeling right now. And
yeah.
it's just a practice I've been working on, like poking holes,
Poking holes in it.
Yeah, not
Says-
like overly,
Yeah.
oh, this is me.
Yeah.
So, but I was still able to feel it. So that was interesting.
That's so great. That's so
Yeah.
great. And I think that, quite likely a lot of that has come with practice. It's this kind of meta awareness that we can develop with many years of meditation and other kinds of contemplative practice, is that we can reside more in witness.
Yeah.
And we can see like, that's anxiety. Okay. Right. Like I'm not like in the anxiety. I don't become anxiety. I see like, that's interesting. Like I can take bird's eye view. I can take a few steps back and I can see like, oh, wow, isn't that interesting? Doesn't mean it goes away, but it does mean it doesn't feel quite as intense because we have a little bit of distance.
It's like it doesn't turn into despair or
Yeah.
it just stays at, okay,
Doesn't-
I'm having anxiety about this thing. Yeah.
Doesn't spiral. It doesn't
Right,
become
right.
something bigger. So we're not pouring fuel on that fire. Right? Yeah. Thank you so much for sharing, Noam. That's so interesting. Yeah, did you notice the same thing with the kind of sensation of joy or whatever you felt down in the
I
belly?
didn't want to poke holes in that
You
one.
didn't want to poke holes in it. You wanted to cultivate it more.
That feels good.
Yeah, so you like feels really good. And when you wanted to move toward it, did you feel it expand any, or just kind of like,
Yeah, not really.
yeah,
I didn't stay with it very long because I was trying that toggling thing,
yeah,
which is not something I've done before. So that was
yeah,
interesting.
yeah,
And it was interesting because it's what made me really aware of where they were locationally.
yeah, yeah, yeah. And sometimes being able to locate it in the body, which is why I love engaging in this practice, we can notice, like, even before we have identified this is an emotion, like I am feeling fear, is just like, ooh, like I feel tension here. Like maybe fear is coming up, or like, ooh, I'm feeling this thing up in my chest, maybe that's anxiety, or maybe like, oh, my belly, just like I feel that kind of like butterfly tingly stuff in my belly. Oh, I'm enjoying this right now, right? Those can also be windows into what's happening. Yeah. Yeah, so beautiful. Anyone else want to share anything? Did anybody notice anything shift when you were toggling back and forth with the pendulation? Things intensify? Did they get less intense? Did you feel a blending of the two? Anyone notice anything? Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, go ahead.
I noticed what was interesting for me is my difficult emotion was sort of this contraction in my belly, and then I kind of
Yeah.
went with it, and it released this kind of intense sorrow, kind of a sadness. And then that
Mm-hmm.
sorrow and sadness, when I went to the joy, I mean, I actually had some tears coming out of my eyes from it. But the
Yeah.
interesting thing was that then when I went to joy, it was in the same place and it was evoking the
Wow.
very same reaction. So for me,
Wow.
it's really interesting because it's like, oh, they spring forth from the same place. They're the two sides of the same thing. So
Mm.
for me, that was really interesting and
Yeah.
quite beautiful.
Thank you so much for sharing. That is truly beautiful. And have any of you, all of you, seen Inside Out, the Inside Out movies? Makes me think of the scene where sadness is finally recognized for her beauty, and that part of joy, the character of joy, is made possible by there being sadness. That there are these two sides, and for the pleasant emotions to be able to arise, we actually need the whole range of experience. So thank you for so beautifully articulating that. What a great experience to have. Thank you for bringing that into the space. Yeah.
Thanks for facilitating it.
Yeah.
Uh, I was feeling like a lot of discomfort here in my heart, and it's like sense of rejection. And then,
Mm.
but then I had this thought, oh, I don't want to bypass this. Like, I'm not gonna just like meditate and just like bypass this. So I thought like, oh, I'm gonna go deep into it and then like layer it. But then also like holding spacious awareness with it.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then I was like in my head, oh, I'm not gonna try to make it go away. I'm just
Yeah.
gonna like keep like opening the layers. And then
Nice.
somehow it just like went away. And then later I
Hmm.
noticed there was a lot of tension here. And then
Hmm.
I was like, oh, I guess I was sitting weird today. I
Hmm.
didn't know it was this thing. And then I also remembered, okay, I'm not gonna try to make this go away. And
Yeah.
I'm just gonna notice it. And I was not just here, I was like focusing my whole area, but also being aware of it. And then
Yeah.
I realized it's actually gone. Like,
Wow.
yeah, I don't know, it's just gone.
That's amazing. Yeah.
But I guess it was new to me, like, oh, I'm not gonna try to make this go away. I'm just gonna be this.
Yeah. That's so incredible. So it's such wonderful discoveries and such wonderful finds that this is, I mean, if we sit with something long enough, even if it's something that is very pervasive and very sticky, what we'll find, we sit with it long enough, is that it does shift and change. Even if our awareness goes somewhere else, and that's, how it changes. We are not always holding a ton of tension. Like we might be a habitual thing, but there is the possibility of release. And, it might be something that is very physically there, or it might be something that is connected with emotion or with thoughts or with, other things. And it literally can be released in an instant, right? If we kind of allow the space for it to let go. That's amazing. Thank you so much for sharing. Yeah. Wow. We just have a couple minutes left, and I would love to ground us in some kind of soothing sound in order to allow all of this to land. This is, in my mind, this is kind of where I'm gravitating toward with a lot of my practices. How do we make these? This is why in part of the title and the description is like, how do we do practical practices for these times? How do we cultivate wisdom within? And part of cultivating wisdom is going to the places that are maybe more challenging, understanding like, ooh, that tension shows up when this is going on. Oh, like I can connect with that and hold space for it. So thank you for engaging. This has been wonderful. Okay, so sit back. You can close your eyes or soften your gaze. Get comfortable. And your only job is to just open up to hearing some sound. This will be on the theme for tonight. Embrace the shadow. Step into the light. Come with me and sit by the fire. Enter the cave of the heart. Embrace the shadow. Step into the light. Come with me. Sit by the fire. Enter the cave of the heart. Embrace the shadow. Step into the light. Come with me. Sit by the fire. Enter the cave of the heart. Enter the cave of the heart. As the sounds continue to reverberate, the experience of the practice, being in community, continues to permeate and soak in. I invite you to, if your eyes have been closed, to open them, and just thank you all so deeply for your presence and for your practice. Thank you so much. Such a pleasure to be with you. Thanks to all of you online who joined too. Thank you. Have a wonderful evening.